And we're ready.
Click. Scene one. Hi, I'm Dazza Greenwood of civics.com and a founding member of the Open Dialogue Coalition, where we've been exploring a new way to do interoperable and open connections between not only individuals but also communities. We call it an open, public, internet architecture. Open because it's open standards, open source, open content. Public because while there's a lot of overlap between the concept of public and open, it also connotes a sense of the public sphere, public spirit, and public processes. To use technologies of any kind, whether information technologies or brick and mortar bridges and aqueducts, in the public interest, public processes are necessary that have a different kind of standard than what you would just do to have something be open. Some kind of notice, some kind of ability to participate in a fair way, recourse. There's a few basic things you hear again and again. Legitimacy, frankly. And if you're doing it within, and it needs to support and reflect the context within which it's occurring. So here in the post-Enlightenment Western world, we have this idea that people actually have a lot of say and sovereignty as free people. And so maybe that would be reflected as well, unlike perhaps a commercial system, if you're using a public system. So in a commercial system, maybe the company might own and control the identities and the content. They would make money from that, and they provide a service that you want, and that's the deal. And that's not, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an economic model, and you could have an open, integrated architecture that works very nicely in very non-public models. In order to do things like what the White House in the United States has got their eyes set toward, the goal of open government, in order to do the transformational kinds of interactive and transparent and accountable interactions with the public, something, in fact, public is needed. To serve the public in their dimension of identity called citizen in a free society requires public processes. So this idea of the public aspect of the architecture starts to get at those things. So there's a place in the framework for things like due process, and privacy, and the autonomy of individuals, that kind of thing. Integrated is really getting at the idea that not only can these things be cross-boundary integrated, so that you can have something from the media and something from the government and maybe something from blogs all come together around the same topic in a unified user experience. But it also gets at the importance at the architectural level of bringing things together in sync at the business, legal, and the technical layers of architecture. It may sound funny at first to think about a technology architecture, but this is at this point a fairly well understood phrase among technologists, and it's a way, almost like a blueprint for a physical architecture, that you can map out the technology in a way where you can explicitly and traceably prove whether or not it's been built like that or not. And you can also look at it and see whether it's serving the purposes that you want that tool to do. Does it look like a hammer, or does it look like a wrench? Is it serving the purpose? And you can look at the architecture and actually see that. Same thing at the business level. Business architectures are things like Visio diagrams, org charts, and the legal level and legal architecture ends up being expressed as governance, contracts, those types of things, licenses. And so these things have to be a little bit explicit, and they have to fit together and integrate in order for a unified experience for the users and in order for the businesses and entities and individuals that will be sharing data in and out of this sort of cloud of the internet, if you will, to be able to do it in a way that can have reliability and that can be suitable for the higher standard for public purposes, public engagement, civic engagement, also suitable for higher levels of commerce as well. Any high value, sensitive, or mission critical kind of task, an OPIA should be good for. And A, of course, stands for architecture. Architecture brings it all together, and that's what makes it a lot of fun to work on, because to do an architecture, you have to work with all the stakeholders, ideally, in the community, and that's interested. All the people that will be living in and working in this architecture ideally would have some input. And so that's why it is that we've got a diverse and wonderful group of collaborators in this just emerging organization now called the Open Dialogue Coalition, with the indomitable Salona Bonewald and the very experienced Daniel Bennett, Lou Kleppner of Gateway to Gov, entrepreneur in the public interest, and many, many others that are coming on board now. Perhaps you, if there's something you've heard here that you like, if there's something that you see, if you sense the possibility for the future, then I invite you to go to Open Dialogue Coalition and bring that future into realization now. Now is when the hope's happening. Now is when possibility is right at our fingertips. So let's make it happen. We'll figure out the code, we'll make the code, and then we'll make reality. Okay?
Brilliant. Thank
Great.
you.
It wasn't that